Hey everybody, welcome back to From the Top. Great to see all of you today. I am really excited about this podcast. We are talking all about flipping houses. So I have two experts with me today. Hello, gentlemen. I want to first introduce Jake Barnes. He's with Fund That Flip. He is the territory manager for both the Pittsburgh and Cleveland areas. And we also have Mike O'Neill with us, owner of O'Neill's Investments. So good to have you guys here at Armina today.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So let's talk all about flipping houses. Let's go back to the beginning. We'll start with you, Jake. Tell me a little bit about Fund That Flip. What is it?
Yeah. So Fund That Flip. The name can be a little bit misconstruing, but I work with investors, our company does, and we lend them money for their fix and flip projects, their value add rentals, and their new builds. Okay. We take a little bit of a different approach. We're not like a typical bank. It's not going to show up on your personal credit report, and it's to an LLC. But we really help investors like Mike scale.
Yeah. So, Mike, how long have you been in this business flipping houses?
So flipping houses, we've been really active since about the past 8 years. We've been in business 21 years altogether. And we've moved over to the flip market right back, probably 2014, 15. Okay. And it's been pretty strong since. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And Pittsburgh is really a great market for this. I know you are busy. We were talking earlier, you said you had 100 different projects last year alone?
Yeah, 2021, we did 108 flips. Wow. And we did some other properties too. We sold with some other partners. It was a really busy year. Pittsburgh's very, very unique. It has a lot of territory, a lot of ground, a lot of inventory of old homes, new homes, different markets, different institutional buyers. Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways you can go and look at different markets and pivot to them. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And I guess this question is really for both of you guys, Jake and Mike. How do you benefit really from working together? Like, break it down for me.
I'll let Mike speak first.
Yeah, so Fund That Flip's great. They give immediate buying power, immediately. If I get into a deal where I need to make a fast connection right now, I can get a hold of them. They could send me a pre-approval letter and we could lock that deal up. But then I could move the parts and pieces towards the math of the project, figure out where I can use it to exit and what would make sense. Some other buyers and capital partners we have, they're good too, but they've been a great flexible partnership for me for purchasing power for sure. And all the parts and pieces are very flexible and fluid.
On my end, I mean, partnerships are key, right? Aside from that, I'd consider Mike and his family, friends by now. But what's great is we really take like a catered approach to his business. So he plays around with new builds, Airbnb, short-term rentals, and also flips. And in the current market, you want to make sure that you have multiple exit strategies, right? So we make sure that Mike is solid on that end. Obviously, we make sure that it's a great deal for us to lend on as well. Mm-hmm. But he's been a very, very strong partner in the current market.
Yeah. And how did your CEO start all of this?
Yeah. So our CEO, Matt Rodak, he founded the company in 2014. So he was big into real estate, doing projects himself. In 2014, there was some legislation that changed regarding accredited investors being able to do crowdfunding online for real estate projects. So he took hold of that. He seized that. So our capital stack is basically hedge funds and then also accredited investors on that platform online.
Okay. I'm curious now, since you work both in the Pittsburgh market, Cleveland market, what's the major differences? I mean, of course, Pittsburgh is the better market.
I am a Steelers fan, so you got me there. Don't tell the folks back home. I love both markets. I would say out in Pittsburgh, you're getting more of a rental return. So if you're buying a $100K property, you could probably rent that for $1,250. In Cleveland, $200K for $1,250. Okay. Now out here, you guys have a lot more cool things like the row home structures, the rooftop patios, and Mike can talk about that. But both very attractive markets, especially in 2023.
Okay. Yeah, and you've been in this industry for a long time. So what are you seeing now as like the big trends?
So big trends now, I guess you got to really study the market, study the comps in the areas that are hitting, and be able to pivot to those areas. I like to stay real diverse and do some new construction work, do flips, rentals, rehab to sell, the BRRs. We do all that stuff. So, and I think if you can lean on each individual strong point when you need to, that's important. Yeah. So the areas that have been real successful for us or leading to that is the Airbnb market, the short-term rental markets, and I try to target anything you can see. Maybe the city, the skyline of the city, the stadiums, the convention center, anything like that you can target that. And then rooftop decks, of course, are huge right now. So as the building experience we have, we like to tear walls out, we tear roofs off, we add floors, we put the rooftop decks up, we make it real desirable to want to be there. So all the places you hang out the longest time, you can see that focal point of the city, which is important. So
yeah, you know, it reminds me of, we did a great shoot with Armina Stone about a year ago at this amazing house. They totally redid it up in Troy Hill, which I'm not too familiar with that area, but they had this beautiful rooftop pool, and the view of downtown was so unique. Like, that's a great area. I bet you see a lot of that up there.
Yeah, anything on the hill, the south side slopes, Mount Washington. Some of the Troy Hill, Dutchtown, North Side, all by Allegheny General Hospital. I have properties in all those areas right now, and at any point you could look out any window at any of those and see the city. Yeah. So some of my current ones, the South Side slopes, it'll have a great rooftop deck. It'll be incredible, and then some over by AGH will be as well.
Oh yeah,
it'll be killer. You're definitely right about that.
I was gonna say too, like we see a lot of business in East Allegheny right now near Georgetown area, Munhall, Homestead as well. We've seen some McKees Rocks, McKees Sport stuff trickle in, like Carrick, but for my business, it doesn't always have to be the sexiest home. As long as it makes good business sense as an investment, we'll lend to it.
How do you know if maybe you're working on a project and you don't think it's going to pan out the way maybe you originally thought going into it?
Yeah, I would say for me on the front end, if Mike were to give me a call, I would do some math behind the scenes, and from that point on, I'd know, like, hey, this is a good deal. This is Mike's typical deal, or what's up here? I'd be able to pinpoint, like, hey, are you sure you're buying this at the right point? Are you sure you're not spending too much on those finishes? My underwriters would look at it and be like, okay, there's comps with those finishes, but let's not get crazy here. Maybe not 100K on those cabinets, you know?
Yeah. How many different partners do you work with? I know a lot goes into flipping a house.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, partnerships are key. So partnerships can be defined in many different ways, but so capital partners is one. They're always great to have, such as lenders as Fund at Flip, or even private lenders, which we do have. Building suppliers, I'll do a shout out to Reed Building Supply, of course. Every piece of material we use goes through him. I couldn't have near the success we had without someone who's so fast and prompt to our service. So that's really critical as well. Mm-hmm. And then also wholesalers, realtors, you can't leave them out, right? It's a huge portion. Like we talked a little earlier, if I get my real estate license, it's taking away from what I'm best at. So you need to identify where you're strong and then lean on others as partners to grow and really be efficient for success, for sure.
For sure. And I know we are excited because Armina Stone has been working with you guys as well on quite a few projects. So how's that going?
Oh, Armina Stone's been great. So we were doing some business with another vendor prior to them, and we actually met Jake here at a Pirate game at a networking event and pushed us into Emery and Mike Reynolds. We met them guys, and it's been fantastic. They have an incredible operation facility going on, insane power, insane product. And we're on our 5th deal with them now, just in the past 40 days. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's been wonderful. They're great to deal with. And that product, everyone knows the slogan on 96.1. I mean,
oh, yeah, we're going to sing it at the end.
That's right, we are. So just having that as a partnership, it helps you. Just that kind of networking helps you. And then the product itself, it builds the ROI on the product. You can get better rents, you can get better value just off that product alone. So they've been great, and they're great people to deal with.
Mm-hmm. How many, I know you have a handful of projects, if not more, you're already working on for this year. But I guess what would be one of the most, I guess, that has stood out to you, maybe different, unique, fun that you've worked on at any point?
No, I mean, I think I buy properties all with the same platform. I try to just do a systematic approach. I've worked in a lot of different areas, a lot of different builders. I've been project manager, senior project manager with a lot of different builders. I study all of everything that they do that keeps their success strong, and I just kind of bring it over, implement it into my system. I look at different areas. I don't like to stay in one area. If the zip code collapses, you got to be able to have something in another area. So it's really important, again, to lean on your realtors for the hot spots. Product, studying comps is probably one of the most important things. Mm-hmm. You continue to do your homework and see what's selling, the finishes, the areas. And then I try to target those areas that make sense so you're not overbuilding and not getting any capital back out of the property.
Right. And with the current state of the market, is this still a good time for flipping?
It can be. So, I think the exit is more important than anything. Even before you buy a house, I think it's very, very critical and important to know what's your strategy out of the property. Is it going to be a buy and hold? Are you going to put it for Airbnbs from day one? Is it going to be a sale? And then you have to have the ability to have enough equity in the property when you're rehabbing it. So if you need to pivot at the end, if you need to go to a sale, to a refi, to a hold, you have to have that option. So it's really smart to understand all aspects of exiting and the areas so you can put that property in its target mode.
And from a lender's perspective, like how can you remain as attractive to a lender and still remain profitable in the current times? Guys like Mike are buying their properties, 30, 40 cents on the dollar discount. So they're immediately winning in the buy. They're managing their own renovations, keeping costs extremely low as well. And they're being realistic on the back end with the ARV if they're selling it as a flip. If they're holding on to it as a short-term rental as well, that's another exit strategy which bodes them well.
Right.
A short thing, and then Jake will probably speak for this. Every time I bring a deal to the table, if there's a potential of $600,000 on a resale, I'll go in light and say maybe 550, 560. I always try to come on the conservative side, so everything's a bonus on top of that.
And we appreciate that. And like Mike's numbers are very consistent, and he's got them kind of tuned in. So that's never a problem. And I will say, like, not all investors have that approach. The last 2 years have been super, super green, and nothing wrong with that. But, everybody's getting the highest leverage out the door, the lowest interest rate, and like things are changing. So these weekend flippers are very quickly getting flushed out of the market in real time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Another key is it's real critical not to take everything out of the property. When we refi and if we sell, I leave some equity in there so it still looks attractive. So if the market bounces back rapidly and I need to offload some properties, I didn't max out cash flow to go buy another property. I took maybe 60% where I could have taken 70. But I kept equity in the property. At this point, maybe I have a tenant in place. It's cash flowing and has an attractive equity, and it's easy to offload to another investor.
Yeah. Who can you work with, or who do you mostly work with? Like if a newbie wanted to come to you guys, is that something you could do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So fund that flip. We prefer to work with investors that at least have 4 projects under their belt. Ideally like a 650, 680 credit score. To make sure that they're paying people back. We want to make sure they're like not a mass murderer or something, clean background and all that.
You got to check these things these days.
Exactly. You want to do business with good people, and then they have to have some money in the bank as well. Now, on the opposite end of that, I like to be a connector locally and help out the people in the 0 to 4 project space. If they know somebody like Mike locally that they're comfortable with, or somebody at their brokerage, they can partner up, and then the person with the true experience can kind of own that operating agreement, personal guarantor for them as well. And we can get it done and help build their track record with a company like mine that has consistent capital and really takes care of people.
Yeah.
For sure. And another great thing about Fund That Flip is along the way, if you get into a situation where you need to refi, you can't sell the property, the market dumped on you, or the zip code collapsed. They Fund That Flip, and Jake specifically, they have a lot of contacts for different lenders for refi. So they put you in front of all the correct people, all the tools you need to be successful on, pretty much under any market, if you can really study what's going on and understand it.
Yeah, that's awesome. You were mentioning that you have a new duplex now. I'm sure you've learned a lot about the flipping business.
I definitely have. Yeah, I'm no pro yet, so this is my W-2 job. But I'm currently house hacking out in Lakewood, Ohio, near Cleveland.
Okay.
We bought it right, just like I coach up the investors to do. We put some elbow grease and some sweat equity into it, and I think we're about $5K into it. Bought it for $210. We could probably sell it for $250, $260, but we're gonna live in it for a year. And the mortgage note's $1,730. We'll cash flow $1,000 next year.
Okay.
So great first deal for me.
Yeah, and I'm sure you will have many more after this
so.
one.
Yeah.
Just the start of it.
That's the goal.
I'm curious, what would be the most challenging part of flipping a house? I watch all these shows on HGTV, and it seems like in every episode, they always run into some sort of problem.
The most challenging part would be the reality, right? Everything looks great. Everything looks great on real TV. But if you get into the property and open a wall, you have to know what you're dealing with. You have to know all parts and pieces. And then experience is probably the biggest thing. Anyone can get in there and figure it out. But when you need to improv on the move, you need to figure out, you got to deal with inspections, code enforcement, irate neighbors, all that stuff. All that is real in flipping. So when you get into it, you really have to know what's going on with some experience for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm sure that each project is different and it takes a different amount of time, but what's the usual time span that it takes for you to complete one?
Yeah, so that's a big variable. There's a lot of questions, a lot of things that could go wrong on a property, but I try to target $1,000 per day budget or a day and a half per thousand maximum. So a $30,000 project should land 30 to 45 days. That's what we try to target, and we're pretty good at that. And a lot of things don't go as planned. But again, when you have in-house teams, it's very important. It keeps costs down. When you guys don't have that, they have to constantly sub out. They run into a plumbing problem their team can't handle. They run into an electrical problem their team can't handle. They got to pay that specific trades markup, its margin, its profits. All those parts and pieces kill your back end. So if you know how to handle all that in-house, that's critical. So teams and experience is super important.
Yeah.
And to that point too, like all of our loans are 12 months and under. But say Mike's planning on being in a project for 6 months, we're still gonna get him with the 12-month loan to make sure that he has added safety at no extra cost. And like I work with investors that can do a 7 to 15 day turnaround. So why should I treat them the same as somebody that's gonna be in a project for 6 months? So we really cater the approach instead of being an online lender or a bank that you can't get a hold of that just sends out terms.
Yeah, that's a great point too. I mean, we get into jobs that you think are going to take 4 months, and you get into something like a sewer line's collapsed outside from the root, or just any parts that could go wrong. Having that year is great. I've been in the past with other partners and myself that 4 months you target that as your money, and then you hit that rapidly. You got different delays for permitting and occupancies and whatnot. So having that little buffer is great, and there's not a payment penalty a lot either.
Yeah.
Well.
How's it been going just with like products? It could be anything. I remember I actually got it sooner than I thought, but I ordered a dresser, and random thing, ordered a dresser for my bedroom. I got it maybe 8 months after the fact, after I ordered it. And I was in no rush, but it's like little things like that. It just, I'm sure it's frustrating when you actually have a big home that you're working on.
Well, yeah, sure, it can, but a systematic approach is kind of what we go after. So when you're doing 10, 15, 20 properties a year or more, like we have, or sometimes we're as low as 10, but try to target everything is almost, you're doing the same installs across the board on the basic things. You can do different backsplashes here and there, but then you get a good partner such as Reed and other partners like that, and you can buy in bulk. So we'll buy tons of what we know we're using the most and keep it on standby, and then we don't have to wait for those products. So
yeah, you don't have to worry.
You know what's trendy. If you study your comps enough, you can find out what's trendy: smart mirrors, white shaker cabinets, all that stuff, and then you could go buy a lot of them if you have the buying power and the partners.
Yeah,
and then keep them in the shop when they're at will. So.
And the rooftop decks, you said, a big thing. I have been seeing those all over. A lot of my friends have places now that have gorgeous views, gorgeous decks.
Yeah, I mean, it's
cool.
It's a really cool thing because to go up, you don't have a lot of parts and pieces involved to get approved.
Yeah.
And as long as you keep it under the height restriction of the codes, and you can go up and just keep it in the same footprint, it's quick. And then it's a great spot to host, especially if you got the sidelines of the view.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
A few weeks back, I came out to Pittsburgh, and Mike and I grabbed some lunch, and I think we pulled up to one of his projects, and his crew was ripping off a roof, like craning it off. It was actually pretty incredible.
Gosh. Yeah, that would be amazing to watch.
Yeah, we had to take an entire roof off. There was no room, so we pulled it down with a crane, cut it up on the spot, threw it away, and got it out of there, and then was able to keep moving. So even on busy highways, you got to stay efficient.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So what advice would you give to somebody wanting to break into this industry of flipping homes?
Yeah, so right now, again, it's a really unstable area, time and market, so you really got to study. So I guess the most important thing to do is understand, like I said before, where you're strong at and really target those areas. Understand your exits, study your comps, know your teams, have your trust and all that. And then if you're going to do it, make sure you go all in. I mean, eliminate distractions, focus, and know what you're getting into. Don't just think it's a hobby, treat it as a lifestyle and where you're going to be in life. And definitely study everything. I can't say that enough. Mm-hmm.
I look at it this way. There was the first book written, and then somebody else read that and they learned from that. So make sure that you're around educated people that can kind of walk you through the process. Honestly, just jump right in, but be patient in that too. Mm-hmm. Don't get excited at every single deal. We waited 3-4 months to find the right one for us, and I'm so happy that we did. If you can get comfortable with the worst case scenario, then you're going to be able to pull it off with no problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And networking is massive. I mean, there's been many years where I didn't network. I was too busy to network, and then I didn't think it was a critical piece. When I started doing that, it opened up doors rapidly and fast. So having great partners all the way around the block, realtors, wholesalers, lenders, suppliers, all that is so important and critical to have. So big partnerships and networking is huge, huge.
So when it comes to the kitchen, that's the heart of the home. I'm sure some of the biggest projects of every room that you do in the house. What are the materials that you were using that you need to bring in for that, including, when it comes to the countertops, like when you work with companies like us here at Armina?
Yeah, so there's an old story that says curb to kitchen is really important. When you get out of the car, focus on and what you're seeing from the curb to the kitchen. It sells a house most of the time. Bathrooms are important too, but walking into a kitchen, of course, when I open a front door, I want the client and the prospect to actually see the sight lines of the home, rip out as many walls as you can, make sure you can see the kitchen. And then the area will determine how much stone, how much granite you put into the place, or quartz or porcelain, whatever you're going to use. But the waterfall is real important. I mean, know your ceiling heights, right? If you have 9-foot ceiling heights, you can get 42-inch cabinets. If you got 7-foot ceiling heights, you do 30-inch cabinets. All those things, it doesn't make it look awkward and keep the symmetry looking nice. You know, study your comps. Again, white shaker cabinets are going in. You got different areas with blacks and whites and blues, backsplashes, porcelain backsplashes, stainless appliance, flat matte black appliances, where to do ceramic, where to do LVP, where not to do. All those are really critical. So, cabinet hardware, all that stuff's very, very important.
The little things matter. If you're doing high-end flips, right? Like your buyer pool, when interest rates go up, incrementally shrinks. So if somebody that makes a lot of money comes in and steps in, they're going to notice the cheap stuff right away. And they're going to notice the time that Mike takes with the smart mirrors, with the barn doors, with the black and white look when most people are doing grays, all these little things. So to sum it up, the little things matter. Yeah,
soft close hinges, dovetail joints, hardwood joints, no particle board cabinets. I mean, touchless faucets, all those little details in a high-end market. And then know when to scale back so you don't overbuild. If you get into a rental world, you can still buy those products and you don't have to have all that fancy stuff to it. But the details are very critical.
Like in a rental, you might not want to do Madagascar grade import countertop, but in the high-end flip, that's certainly something to entertain.
Absolutely. So area determines that as well, and studying your comps will help you with that.
If somebody was listening right now and they wanted to get more involved with you guys or wanted to contact you or get in touch with you to work on something, how would they do that? Like, what's the best way to find you, to get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, so I have a very common name, Jake Barnes. But you can find me on Instagram, Jake Barnes _REI funding. And then my company, fundthatflip.com. They're also on Instagram as well.
Yeah,
easy enough.
Same for us. I'm Michael O'Neill. O'Neill's Investments, pretty easy to find. We got a website out there with a contact point. We have different versions of that website where you can come work for us or you can come as a capital partner with us as well.
Awesome. Well, you guys have been so great to have here on the show. You mentioned earlier how you love the jingle that's on KISS, Mikey and Bob. Everybody knows the Armida jingle, but we will sing it together now.
Okay.
You seem more excited than most of our guests when I sing.
I'm a little nervous. I don't know it.
I didn't know I was going to get to sing today. That's also, I have some music in my background
do
as
you?
well. No, but I'm going to play and say I do.
Well, I do too. I took voice lessons my whole life. You would think I would have a decent voice. Yeah. No,
I'll give you guys
terrible.
a score out of 10. I'll sit on the sidelines.
Are you sure, Jake?
Yeah, that's okay. I don't mind.
We've never had a judge. This is nice.
This is great.
We'll do it together, though.
I like that.
Okay, I'll count us down, Mike. Okay,
here we go.
3, 2, 1.
Ooh, Armina Stone.
I mean, you definitely won. That was nice.
I don't know. It was a close call, but
I've never.
To one to give
Whoa,
it to her. Yeah.
Jake!
Might have been a little pitchy.
I think I got the pity vote. I've never had somebody so enthusiastic to do that. That was wonderful.
Anything I do, I'm enthusiastic. Maybe I should continue building houses.
Yeah.
I think so.
You
Stick
should
to that.
stick to what you know. Well, guys, thanks again so much. O'Neill's Investments. We got Fund That Flip. You know where to find him. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.